Hello, my YouTube subscribers. Halfling Wizard here saying howdy do. So today in this video, I want to talk about NPCs. I think NPCs are extremely important. I've played campaigns where NPCs were sort of treated as, you know, information posts. You just go to them, they give you the information, and you walk away from them. And I don't really like that as a GM, DM. I want my NPCs to make sense. So I think it's important that your NPCs make sense to the world that you've created. So in my temporal campaign, Gods of Orlea, I have tons of NPCs that have made reoccurring roles, and I think it's a great idea to have reoccurring NPCs. A lot of times because your player characters are already comfortable with them, so it kind of makes it easier for them to receive the information and actually trust that information. But also, one of the things I wanted to talk about NPCs is, and when I say reoccurring NPCs, is, and it gives the campaign, I think, a little flair because it keeps my players on their toes. Is I have a set of an organization basically, and it's called the Dark Hands, and they are, and I will pull them up for you so you can see them here. They are a group of assassins, and they are originally, when I created them, they were all going to be elf based. But then I decided, no, this is an organization. They probably recruit from all over this world. So I went ahead and made it to where they were multi race. So you could have an elf, you could have a halfling, a dark hand, you could have these sort of assassins. So these assassins, they're world bound. They're the world bound hand of whoever hires them. And when I say world bound, I mean they are bound by an oath to that particular person or entity. In this case, in my campaign, they are bound to a ancient force named Naira. And Naira has given them a primary mission, and that is to basically kill the party. That is their sole purpose. Now, the great thing about these guys, because I kind of created these as a homebrew. I took some existing ideas and created a whole new race or organization, not race. So these dark hands, they are assassins. They're dark assassins, and they are bound to a single target. So they have visions or sights on one. Once they're given a target, that is all they will concern themselves with until that target is eliminated. So they will not take on anything else until that particular target is eliminated. So the Dark Hands in this instance, their primary targets are the player characters in the campaign. The assassins travel in threes, two or three, either two together or three together. So if you see one, there's going to either be one or two more waiting. Um, and so they are single visioned, and the other thing they will not do is they will not harm anyone that they are not basically tagged to assassinate. So but they will use that person. So for instance, let me give you an example. If say you have a father and a daughter, the father's the target. They will use the daughter to get to the target. So what I mean by that is they might say inflict some sort of like cut on her, like on her hand, and knowing that very well that that cut will be healed or bound or whatever, uh, but it will draw the father in when then they can basically assassinate the father. But they will not kill the daughter because that's not their target. So they will not concern themselves with her. So they would kill him and then they'd walk away. So the other thing about them is that they are shadow travelers. They can travel in shadow. So if they step into a shadow near them, then they can appear 30 feet in any direction from another shadow. Uh, so they can literally get away from player characters very easily. They can just zip into a shadow and they don't get an attack of there's no attack of opportunity against them because it's basically like disengaging. Um, So that they are shadow walkers. The other thing that's great about these characters that I love, my player characters hate them. Every time they appear, they're just like, oh, good heavens. And that is they get multiple attacks. They get two attacks, either with their short sword or their longbow. But the great thing about them is that they use shadow poison. Now, shadow poison is basically it's a fey poison, and it's only found in the shadow realm. But the thing about it as a DM that I love about it is that they have to, if they are hit with an arrow or with the sword, they have to do a DC 18 con save or take the full damage. But the great thing about shadow poison is that it cannot be healed by like medicines. It cannot be healed with like a healing potion. It has to greater restoration has to be used on it in order for it to be healed. Now, if a player character is hit with shadow poison and it knocks them down to like 0 hit points, it basically puts them in a coma. And once they're in this coma, they are in a coma until the assassin that actually put them there is either killed or releases them. Uh, and if that does happen, either of those do happen, either killed or released, then they will regain consciousness after a full rest. But it's great. I love it. So if that particular character gets put into a coma and then that assassin disappears, then they're in a coma until they find that assassin. The great thing, but the sad thing for on the assassin side is that they will never leave a target unless they are trying to get an advantage on them. So they're great, and they have popped up all over this campaign. My party, just recently, they were walking out of this church into a square, and then the character Jade Luna, she gets twinged right in the shoulder with an arrow, and from the top of this cathedral. And so they were just like, oh, these guys again. And my cleric just kind of moaned and groaned about it. And so they went and they killed two of them. And so they are literally a thorn in their sides. And every time they hear the twang of that bowstring, they just roll their eyes so heavy. So yeah, so it's important. I love these guys, and I bring them in every once in a while just to kind of liven things up when things are either going a little too well for them. Uh, then I bring these guys in to kind of stir the pot. Uh, some other NPCs that I have that are kind of colorful. We have Beryl, Golden Brew, who is a sort of a reoccurring well, he is a reoccurring NPC because he's actually joined the party. He is a dwarf cleric that has sort of followed different spirits, you might say. He is a dwarf that loves the drink and a lot of it, and he doesn't care what it is. He also loves the ladies. When they just got into this port town yesterday, they came to a port town, and the very first thing he did is put his nose in the air and sniff out, mead and women. And he took one of the dwarf brothers with him to a brothel, and apparently a brothel that he has gone to many times. It was called Lady Lala's Mead House, and the headmistress was a woman named Mistress Abigail, and apparently her and Beryl knew each other biblically, you might say. But Beryl and Osric, which is the other dwarven character, they kind of spent most of the campaign there, drinking and eating and with the ladies. So NPCs are fun. I mean, they need to be fun. Madame Abigail is this big, busty, loud, boisterous, fun woman who could kick your butt if she needed to, but could be super sweet if she has to be. So your NPCs need to be kind of fun there, because I mean, for the most part, your player characters get to do all the serious stuff. I mean, the player characters can be fun, but the NPCs is where you really kind of get to play with that colorfulness. Reimer is another NPC that I have. He is a Lothari, and he's sort of this big burly blacksmith. And he and the one of my player characters, Jade Luna, have bonded because they're both Lothari, and they literally run through the woods as wolves, uh, and have a lot of fun that way. So yeah, and your NPCs could be a little darker. I mean, my dark hands are pretty dark, and then I have a bad guy named Coilin Onwell who is a Lothari who's been cursed, and his whole thing is to kill Jade Luna. That's his mission. He's been given by this dark ancient force. So yeah, so your NPCs, I think they are like the meat and bones of your story. I mean, the more fun and interesting characters that your PC characters can actually meet along the way is fantastic. We are my player characters in my temporal campaign. They've just boarded a ship called the Shadow Chaser, and it's full of colorful characters, which I'm working on right now. And just have fun with them. Make them as big and bigger than life as you can. Give them some secrets and some fun stuff, but make them big and bold. I think it'll add a lot of flavor and a lot of color to your campaign. So, yeah. So NPCs, that's the topic for this one. Make them big, make them bold, and keep on playing.